The Democrats are always accusing Donald Trump of ignoring the rule of law because, after all, he wants to be a king, a dictator, a fascist regime leader. But what we see time and time again is Democrats themselves the ones who are ignoring the Constitution. And that's exactly what we're going to see today, pointed out by Eric Schmitt over in the Senate. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
And I'm glad that Senator Durbin asked you all the question of what we can do to stop this flow, and most of which are coming from 4 states: Arizona, California, New Mexico, and Texas. The information I have is that with regard to FBI, 45% of agents and 25 large field offices are working immigration full time. 45%. So, and as for the ATF, 80% are working on immigration enforcement at least part of the time. So there's a significant diversion of resources toward immigration reform as opposed to the stuff that you all are supposed to be doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Schmitt. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to follow up with that, I hope you do more deportations. I hope you help find more criminals. And I hope we send them either back to their home country or somewhere else. And that's on that point that I want to use my time to sort of address something here. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding a hearing. I have listened for 6 months to Democrats on this committee for any President Trump nominee that comes here, grilling them about whether or not they're going to follow the law, whether or not they're going to abide by court orders. And through 1,000 different ways to ask the same question, they give the appropriate answer. President Trump, by the way, in his first term and now in his second term, has abided by every single court order. So this newest fake constitutional crisis, and we're on to another one today about Article 2 powers this weekend. There's just a new fake constitutional crisis from the Democrats every single week. But on this one in particular, it is worth pointing out what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday, a radical, liberal, progressive, leftist judge, Brian Murphy, who was confirmed in the lame duck session when Joe Biden, President Otto Penn, may not even have known he was appointing this person, approved by the Democrats in the Senate, is now refusing to obey by a Supreme Court order for the deportation of 7 criminal aliens. And let's just do a little bit of tail of the tape. These people are, one of them is a convicted arsonist. Another one is an armed robber. Another one is a murderer of an elderly woman. 2 more are murderers. One is a child, and another is of a person with special needs. These are the people that the Democrats spend their time defending. And now we have a judge, through an act of, dare I say, insurrection, which is a word that's thrown around here all the time, is refusing to abide by the Supreme Court's ruling to say, yeah, actually, when you held up these deportations, you were wrong. We are ordering you to allow these deportations. This judge, Brian Murphy, decided to cite the dissenting opinion, and say, you know what, I'm going to give the Supreme Court the middle finger. I don't want to do it. So for all of the nonsense I've heard on this committee about every judge, including the ones from Missouri that were put forth, every nominee, including Pam Bondi, every single person in the administration that's come before the committee, their sort of righteous indignation to sit here and act like they have the moral high ground on obeying court orders and the rule of law, it's all a lie. And the mask has come off because Brian Murphy has shown what this is really all about. The Democrats believe in that, but only when it suits them. In this issue of illegal immigration, I can't actually believe they're doing it. I can't actually believe that this 80-20 issue, the American people want to meet mass migration with mass deportations, period. And their willingness to allow assaults on law enforcement officers who are doing their jobs is insane. What you will not hear, you've heard some Democrats disavow the violence, but what you will never hear any one of them say is that, you know what, we need to take a step back and let ICE do their jobs, because they don't really want ICE to do their jobs. They're totally fine with a bunch of leftist radicals who invaded the White House with President Autopin. They can't believe their luck. They were writing white papers about open borders, and then they were setting policy, throwing our borders open to 15 million people who are here illegally. And when a president comes in, after campaigning on the idea that he was going to deport these 7 people, including an arsonist, a murderer, of elderly people, of people with disabilities, that's the line. That's the red line. And now you've got a judge willing to back them up. And I've seen what's been going on in California. It's ridiculous. If you're here illegally, you don't have a right to be here illegally, period. End of story. And guess what? The law says you can be deported somewhere else, like in this case. And the Supreme Court just affirmed that. And now we have a rogue, liberal, leftist district court judge who doesn't want to abide by it. So I don't want to hear any Democrat on this committee who voted for this guy, by the way, ask a Republican nominee if they're going to abide by court orders, because who they voted for isn't doing it. So you want to talk about a real constitutional crisis? There it is.
Bravo to Senator Schmitt for saying what he just did, because time after time, we don't see the Democrats actually calling for the rule of law. They call for a disregard of it, right? They don't want to actually enforce our borders. They don't want to enforce our current immigration code. They don't want to enforce ICE to be allowed to go into neighborhoods and actually round up criminal illegal aliens. They don't want any of that. Okay, that's how we know they're against the rule of law. That's how we know they're ones who actually endorse the lawlessness we've been seeing in the streets, right? Never mind, of course, the no-cost bail. Never mind releasing criminals back into the streets, right? They don't want to enforce any of that stuff. But now, of course, since the illegal immigrant is the new mascot of the Democrat Party, they're all saying, hey, please let them just live in this country. When, as a matter of fact, they don't want to deport anybody, no matter how vile or criminal the act is that they have committed. They don't want to ship anyone back to their country of origin, or even out of this country. Okay, that's where the Democrats really stand. And what we saw was true lawlessness, where, yes, this judge actually came out and defied the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said Donald Trump can, of course, deport all of these criminal illegal aliens. But this judge said, no, they can't. Okay, and thank goodness the Supreme Court came out again and said all of these injunctions that these federal judges are actually imposing on Donald Trump, they're gone. It's over with, right? You can't have one person holding up the prospect of the entire immigration system. So anytime we have a Democrat out there saying, oh, we're facing a constitutional crisis, you just got to turn the tables on them and say, why aren't you actually for enforcing our current immigration law? Why do you want to allow people that are harming American citizens into this country? Because every time we bring up Laken Riley and all the people that have been killed by all these horrible illegal immigrants, the Democrats have no response. They move on and just simply say, oh, you're xenophobic. You're some type of ist or phobe because you actually want to keep this country safe and secure. And that's exactly what we all want and what we elected Donald Trump to do. The 80-20 issues the Democrats are constantly ignoring are going to come back and bite them in the butt. And thank goodness they're not learning any lessons from the past, because we want to win elections and win them easily. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description, where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.